Hey guys, Chris here from Carolet Miniature Horses. Today has me a little concerned, I'm not gonna lie. When I came down this morning to feed everyone, I put Rocky in the feedlot along with Sweetheart for their morning grain. I've just recently started giving Rocky a little bit of grain with his first horse show just around the corner. I felt he was just ever so slightly thin, and so we've just very carefully started him on some grain. However, I am suspecting that he might be a little footsore today. He didn't have an appetite, and so then I really was looking at him closely, and as I was grooming him, I saw him shifting his weight back and forth between his two hind feet. So I went straight to the house and I put a call into the vet. So the vet is on their way. When I told them sort of my suspicions about Rocky and sort of my observations of him this morning, I'm glad that he kind of wants to come and say hi and be personable, though, because a little while ago he just wanted to stand over here by the gate and just, kind of stand there quietly without any real interest. So the fact that he's nibbling over here is a good sign. However, if it is laminitis, we don't want him to be eating, right? We're going to have to probably pull him off the grass. Long story short, the vet is on their way and we're going to have this little guy checked out and we're going to just make sure that he's doing all right. And if there's more that we can do to help him feel a little bit better, we will. I'll also share that when I first saw Rocky sort of shifting his weight and noticed he didn't have an appetite, I did feel all four of his feet. And, I don't feel any warmth in those feet, which is a good sign. But the vet will come out and they'll probably check his digital pulse to make sure that's not elevated. The fact that he's feeling a little bit better now is good. But I did see him laying down multiple times this morning out here in the paddock. And just all of those little things combined just had me thinking that we might be just at the very, very beginnings of some discomfort, and that's Rocky coughing right now. I don't think he's got a respiratory thing going on. That was an odd little cough. Yeah, a very odd little cough. He didn't seem to be choking or anything earlier, so I don't know. He has pooped, I will say that. I've seen him go to the bathroom twice since I've been monitoring him. So that's good. I don't think it's colic. He doesn't seem to be restless or irritated. He's not looking back at his stomach. He's not trying to roll. So that's a good thing. But if anything, I am just suspecting it could be his feet. Like I told you, he seems to be feeling a little more himself. He wants to nibble on the grass a little. He's been sticking his head into the feedlots to nibble on some of that grass. So we'll just see what the vet says. I mean, my gut instinct was we need to have the vet out just to double check. And, it is my job to do right by these minis. And when in doubt, call the vet. So we've got Rocky here all ready for the vet. Got his halter on. He's been fly sprayed already this morning. And I also opened the double red gates at the end of the ring. That's where the vet will pull in and they can park here by this red gate behind me. So he still seems a little more alert than he was earlier this morning when I first came out, which is a good sign, a good thing. Again, like I said, just to be safe, I will definitely rest assured having him checked out. And because I've actually never personally had horses with founder issues before, it's not something I'm really super familiar with. I mean, I'm aware of it and I have a good sense of what one would need to do to care for a horse who is having a laminitic episode. He seemed totally fine yesterday. I didn't suspect anything. So if this is a little bit of laminitis that is just beginning to flare up, it's very, very early, which is key. Treating it early on, catching it and treating it early on are the two most important things. So ever since we brought the minis home, I must admit, I've sort of had founder and laminitis at the back of my mind, just knowing that that is something that these smaller equines can be a little more prone to having issues with, just from a metabolic standpoint. And so if you've watched any of our videos over this past spring, you know, I've really been watching the grass come in. I've been monitoring everyone very closely. And I mean, I really hope that this isn't what we're experiencing with Rocky. We'll know here shortly because the vet should be here any minute now. But, you know, just thinking about founder and laminitis, you know, it has to do with the sugar content in the grass. And with spring grasses as well as fall grasses, when the temperatures of the day kind of get high and then it cools off at night, that tends to cause a greater spike in the sugar content of the grass. And the sugars are also created through photosynthesis. And so the highest point of the day when the sugar content is at its greatest is generally in the early to mid-afternoon through your evening hours, really into the overnight, you know, midnight to 2 a.m. is when the sugars begin to really then dip low. And so, you know, they recommend that, you know, if you have a really sensitive horse, that you actually keep them off the grass during those afternoon, evening hours, and you ideally wouldn't turn them out until, you know, the middle of the night. That's not something most of us can do, so I'm very curious to ask the vet, what are their recommendations, right? If we are experiencing a very mild case of founder or laminitis here with Rocky, looking at our pastures and our setup, I'm curious to know if the vet thinks that maybe just keeping him up like we did Clover off of the primary grass for the majority of the day and evening hours, would that be enough? You know, we don't have a true dry lot here. I didn't have that for Clover, which is why Clover ultimately went back home. I didn't feel that we could really meet his needs if he needed such a dry lot. But we have Rocky, and Rocky is a permanent resident, and so if that is what we find he needs, I will absolutely work to make that happen. First thing probably though that we would do would be to take our front stall and finish that door modification. That way, if he needs to stay in the stall, completely off of the grass for the daytime hours, afternoon hours, we could do that. That would be maybe our first step if the vet does think that he needs to have a pretty strict modification to his grass intake. Because we don't know if that's what's going on, and because he's feeling a little bit better, I am letting him just nibble around the feedlots here while I wait for the vet. But if the vet does suspect it's laminitis, we'll then certainly take a different approach. So just a few thoughts there. That stall door, we might have to really get that finished ASAP. Because Clover went home and we didn't need it, it had been on the back burner. But I think that's going to be a new top of the list item. So I'll keep you posted on that too. As I wait for the vet a few more minutes here, I've given Rocky some hay. And I'm glad that he's, you know, happy to nibble on it. And I'm just sort of standing here watching him and just observing. You know, earlier I felt he kept shifting his weight from his back hind feet, kind of shifting and cocking one and then cocking the other. I haven't noticed that so much as of late, but just one more thing to kind of keep an eye on. That could be an indicator of hoof soreness. I will also mention that yesterday the farrier was out and Rocky did have his feet trimmed. But I don't think that would be causing any of this. You know, if we just put shoes on him, okay, maybe he's got a little bit of a soreness, but I wouldn't suspect it from a simple trim. But that's the only other thing that's kind of different that just happened yesterday. The vet has just arrived. They're pulling down the drive now. I'm going to put my lead rope on Rocky, and then I will let you know what I know as soon as I know it. The vet just left, and I have good news. She did not suspect founder or laminitis. What she did suspect, however, was a mild gas colic. He sort of had a hyperactive, gurgly, gurgle sounds. I'm sure there was a much better way to phrase that, but he was making lots of gut sounds. And because he has his appetite back now, and because I've seen him go to the bathroom twice, since he was so lethargic first thing this morning, the vet is thinking it was just a mild gas colic, which he is already in the process of overcoming. We did go ahead and she gave him a little Banamine just to kind of help him relax and, have a little more comfort. So far, it seems like he's doing really well. And I'm just really pleased that it wasn't laminitis, because that is a big fear of mine. I mean, I don't want my horses to colic either. Don't get me wrong. But the fact that it was a bit of a fluke versus an ongoing, potentially, lifelong illness or challenge, I'm just relieved. So that's kind of the update there for Rocky, but he's doing really well right now. You can see Rocky behind me, he has his appetite back. He's happy to munch on the grass. I gave him some hay earlier back here where he could see his friends, and he was happy to munch on his hay. And so the vet felt that those are all really good signs. So we're gonna leave him in the barnyard today so I can really continue to monitor how he's feeling and really see if he goes to the bathroom anymore. If it looks like he doesn't go to the bathroom, or if it looks like he begins to get more uncomfortable, looking back at his flank or rolling or kind of thrashing, or if he is once again off his feed and not wanting to eat anything, I will call the vet back right away, because it could be that, he has not resolved that bit of colic that he had. But she was thinking it was just a little gas colic, pretty mild, and the Banamine should help him to kind of get over that last little discomfort that he might still have lingering. Another thing the vet did was she took her hoof testers, and she did test all 4 of his feet. His front feet were not the least bit sore, and his back feet, he sort of equally jerked both back feet no matter where she tested him, and she felt that was more because he's just real young and probably had no idea what she was doing. So she did not think that that was because his feet were sore, though. More just kind of being new to this and not really understanding. So yeah, I mean, that was another thing we checked. She did not think it was laminitis, though. She's pretty sure it's just a mild gas colic. And the fact that he's eating now and he's more alert are just fantastic signs. I'm just so glad. I was very concerned about Rocky here, so I'm so happy that he seems to be on the mend. This picture here was from first thing this morning when I was checking in on Rocky. I mentioned to you that he kept shifting his weight from his back feet, from cocking one to cocking the other. I thought it was perhaps because his feet were sensitive, but the vet said that that is a sign sometimes for horses when they have a bellyache, that they are constantly shifting their weight, just trying to get comfortable. And so that, I hadn't heard that before, and so that was perhaps a colic sign that I was not aware of. Just wanted to share that. I am going to leave his halter on, just in case I need to get a hold of him later. I'm going to head up to the house and do some stuff indoors for a bit, but I'll come out every couple of hours just to check on him, see how he's doing, make sure that, his demeanor hasn't changed, or that he, seems to be in any other discomfort. Because again, we'd want to call the vet back right away if this were to continue. But so far, he's looking great, and looks like we could get a shower here in a little bit. So hopefully I won't get too wet if I have to duck out and check on him, but you know what? Not a big deal. I'm checking in on Rocky just from the back porch right now. It's been about an hour since he got his Banamine, and I can still see that he's happy with his head down grazing, so that's a good sign. We are now 2 hours post Banamine, and I am happy to report that Rocky is continuing to munch on grass comfortably, and he has even gone to the bathroom, which is another wonderful sign that he is likely well on the mend. I'll continue to come out every hour or so and check on him throughout the afternoon. The vet did say, though, that after a couple of hours, I could try to give him a handful of his moistened grain just to see if his appetite is back. So let me do that. Oh, another very good sign. I'm only going to let him eat maybe half of what's in here. He ate some of his breakfast, but not all of it, as you can see. But he definitely has his appetite back. But we just want to give him small amounts, and then he'll finish this up maybe next hour. I am feeling so much better about Rocky. The fact that he's alert and he's almost a little pushy, He's like, don't take my grain away from me. I'm really enjoying that. It's for his own good. But just really good signs. Again, I was so worried about him this morning. When you start to really watch your horses closely and you get to know their personalities and their tendencies, right? All those little nuances. Like, I could tell right off the bat this morning that he was not himself. And thank goodness it was nothing more serious than what it was. It was it looks like a very mild colic that I think he is passing well on his own, but I'm so glad the vet came, just helped me rest assured. So again, you know, it's such a good idea to keep a really close eye on your horses and to spend time with them every day, because that's how you get to know them, right? Every horse has a different personality. You know, Shenanigans, he may have behaved very differently. Same with Sweetheart. So for Rocky though, I just knew that he wasn't feeling well this morning. So again, so happy to report, it's got a little itch back there, it looks like. He's feeling much better. I'm going to show you that we do have a thunderstorm rolling in behind me there. I just heard some thunder a moment ago. So Rocky is all squared away. He has hay in the stall if he wants to duck inside. I'm going to go into the house now to get out of this weather. It's actually getting kind of chilly out here. And the other horses that are in the back field have access to the run-in on the back of the barn. So everyone has shelter if they want to duck inside, and I'm going to do the same thing myself. So I'll check in with you a little bit later after this storm rolls through, and we'll see how Rocky is doing. But I think pretty soon here he'll be ready to go out with his buddies. I do believe that Rocky has wisely gone inside the barn. It's pouring down rain right now, and I saw the other minis run up to the back of the run-in as well, seeking shelter. So it's now 4:20. It's 4 hours past when the vet was out and gave Rocky that little bit of Banamine. He's still continuing to nibble happily on the grass. I did report that he had a manure pile that I saw earlier, so that was good. I don't see any more piles just yet. So I think I'm going to leave him in the barnyard for another hour or so, and then I will come back. I'd like to see one more manure pile that is his and fresh. And then because he seems bright, he's got a good appetite, we'll then turn him out with everyone else tonight. You know, the vet had said that if his appetite was back and if he was feeling well and going to the bathroom, that she thought it would be fine to go ahead and let him have his normal evening routine. So that's really good. The sun is coming out now. You know, we did have quite a shower. You know, there's a bunch of standing water out in my ring right now because everything is red clay. When it rains heavily, the water just kind of like sits on top for, you know, sometimes a few hours to a day or so. But we did get a really good shower, which is good. You know, we need the rain. But I'll come back, like I said, and I'll check on Rocky in about another hour. It'll be 5:30 by then. And hopefully then I can just go ahead and comfortably turn him out with his friends. I know he's really happy. I did hear him kind of whinnying to them earlier. So I know that he will be very happy to spend the night with his friends. So I'll check back in one more time before we say farewell for the day. But again, Rocky's doing well, so I'm really happy to report that. I didn't get it on video, but little Rocky just whinnied when I was walking out. I think he's definitely ready to go see his friends. I'm gonna take his halter off and then turn him out. I'm gonna turn Rocky out now. In a perfect world, I would have liked to have seen another pile of manure from him. There was just the one that I saw from a couple of hours ago over there. But he definitely is much brighter. He seems to be feeling much more himself. And because he has been separated for the last couple of hours, I'm going to go ahead and open the gate and let him rejoin his friends. And I'll just continue to keep an eye on him. You know, fingers crossed, whatever that little bout was has passed and he won't have any more issues. But according to the vet, you know, what we saw earlier and what we've seen as far as him perking up this afternoon, everything seems to be boding very well for little Rocky. So I'm gonna open the gate now and he'll be a happy little camper. Yes, you will, buddy. I know, you're ready to go out. You gonna go say hi, Shan? No? What you think, Rox? Your buddies just wanted to come into the barnyard. I think they were more bummed that they weren't able to have the barnyard than they were that Rocky wasn't joining them. Looks like Rocky's coming over to say hi again. Hi, mister. Hi, sweet boy. Well, let's go open the ring up. Maybe that's what everybody wants. Everybody wants to go to the ring, maybe? out to the ring? Yeah. I think so. Let's do that. Sweetheart immediately decided to stop, drop, and roll. Getting a good back scratch in the very muddy ring. We had a lot of rain earlier. And Shenanigans here. He just wants to play. He looks like he might roll as well. They do love to roll, these guys. They're so silly. Let's see what he does. No, not because I'm filming you. Maybe so. It's just like the donkey in Shrek. All better, Shan. I want to say thank you so much for joining me today. It wasn't at all the day I sort of thought it was going to be. It was quite a surprise with Rocky not feeling well and then having the vet out. But I'm just really, really grateful that he's feeling better now and that he could rejoin his friends this evening. So that was great. You know, again, this morning I was really worried. I thought maybe he was having a bout of laminitis with the spring grasses and all. I just, you know, that's a real big fear of mine. So I'm so glad that's not what it was. You know, colic is never good. Thank goodness this was a really mild gas colic, or so it seems. So again, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you learned something from this experience. And I just want to wish you and your horses, you know, health and happiness. They're going to go run and play now. I'm going to close this gate because sometimes they get to rip-roaring around, and I have seen the horses almost wipe out as they come kind of galloping through the barnyard and approaching this real sharp point to our feedlot here. It's real sharp on the corner. It's a right angle. So I'm going to close the gate so that nobody gets to rip-roaring through here. If they want to run in the field, that's fine. It's just through this kind of little barnyard alleyway that I have. And again, it's just approaching that sharp corner right there that makes me very nervous sometimes. So again, I'm a bit of a nervous Nelly, I guess. Horses are doing great though. Thanks again for joining us today and hope you have a lovely evening. Bye guys.